Hello, my loves. I am doing a very impromptu live because I just got done with a client session, a student session, and some interesting information came up. And I said, you know what? I need to talk about this. This isn't about her. It's not her private stuff. But I do want to talk about this. So we're going to be talking about the real 2020 war that's happening. And just kind of talking about some of the things that are coming up for all of us collectively and what this actually means. So what do I mean by the 2020 war? Because it kind of feels like that. And where we're going in 2021, it's going to continue to feel like that. It's going to feel like this continual roll, this domino effect of things breaking down, of literally us watching the structures that have built and carried us this far, literally falling down. Good morning, Rachel, or afternoon. So when you guys are hopping on, say hello. And if you're watching the replay, give me some replay love. Let me know that you're here. So in 2020 war, it's so funny. I'm going to be a little all over the place. It's going to be a very quantum conversation because there's a lot of moving pieces here. When we think about everything that's happening right now, right? So we have children that are in homeschooling, right? They're online schooling. They're without a structure, a lot of them, not everybody, but they're expected at 5, 7, 13, 16 to have this complete and utter structure formed, right? This is your boundaries. If you've followed me for any length of time, you know by now that boundaries are not a fence. They are not a separation between you and I or you and another person. Boundaries are your structure of who you are. What do you like, what you don't like, right? What you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, where you're going and where you know you're not going. This is your structure and your boundaries. It allows you to have trust within yourself, to know how you want your day to flow. And we're expecting, right? We have these expectations on these children right now, or on the parents, right? To create this structure, to get up, to go to class from 8 to 9, and then to log out and go to this next class from 10 to 11 or however, and to not only manage going to these classes, but also to manage and remember all these logins, but also to then feel safe enough and to surrender enough into that space to open themselves up enough to actually absorb what the teacher is trying to learn to them or what they're actually, receiving. And then to contemplate it, do something with it, and then get back into structure mode, right? To go on to the next one. And if you watched my event that I had last month or the month before, I don't even remember anymore, we understand that structure is masculine and flow is feminine, and there's two different roles. And so it's really difficult to go back and forth. So you have to have a really good structure that's pre-built, that you have built so that you can flow easily at any given time, right? And you understand that these are cycles of life that we go through. So we are putting a bunch of children right now into the third phase of their evolution before they're probably even finished with the first phase. So this is very frustrating to a lot of parents. It's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for you. It's frustrating for the teachers and the school systems. But we look at everything else that's happening too, right? There's so much that's out of our control right now. We don't know what's going to happen with our food supply and it's not really even the food supply, it's the distribution. We don't know what's going to happen with our political system. We don't know what's going to happen with our financial system. What does this equal? We are all in a boat with no directions. Nobody has the directions. We're all in the same boat. We have no idea where the hell we're going. We have no idea where we're going. We have no idea what we're doing. And this is why right now, especially since Mars went into retrograde, right, which is a big catalyst for this intensity that I spoke about for the September energy update, for anger and frustration to rise. Because people are literally, we have been conditioned as a society over hundreds of years to have control, that we need control in order to have safety. that we have to do everything. And in that control, if we can control everything around us, then we can feel safe. And when I was talking to this student, it was an interesting thing that came up that we created this, especially the women, especially us women. We have to take ownership of how we created the reality that we are currently in. And so what do I mean by that? Because a lot of you are going to get triggered by this. But I want you to think back to the 60s and 70s when we had all those burning of the bras and the women's rights movement. What did the women want? They wanted power. They wanted control. They wanted equal rights. They wanted to be able to work. They wanted equal pay. But we were never meant to be equal. We were never meant to be equal. If you go all the way back to the indigenous tribes, people lived in a community. They lived together. And one woman's job was to be the mother, was to be the nurturer. And one woman's job was to be the gatherer. And one woman's job was to be the nurse. And one woman's job was to, be the cooker. Everybody had a place. Everybody used their zone of genius to contribute to that community, to work together. But then as we moved along and we evolved, we started to want more and more power. So here we are today in 2020. Women are not just free and equal to do so, but now they are expected to work, to be the male hunter-gatherer provider. They're expected to work. They're expected to nurture. They are expected to clean. They are expected to be the nurse. They are expected to serve the husband. And now we've added where they're expected to be the teacher. Do you see how much division, how much war within yourself is created? The reason why this is happening is because we as a collective society, in order to wake everybody up, we have to break them. Think about your biggest breakthroughs you've ever had in this life. They most likely came after the biggest tragedy or the biggest heartbreak or the thing that you failed at the most, right? So maybe you lost your job, maybe there was a car accident, maybe there was a death, maybe you got really sick. Usually after the biggest failures of your life or the biggest tragedies of your life, you were so broken that you hit that 0 point, because you're really not broken. But I'm using that word because you're going to relate to that word. But what really happened is you hit that 0 point where you for the first time in whatever you were dealing with saw that you had two choices. You could create a new way. You could experiment and try something to get up off the floor, or you could give up. But you no longer could run on autopilot. You could no longer pretend that things were okay, because right now things are not okay. And as we roll forward, as this progression that I talked about in September's energy update, as we continuously get more and more intense, it's not going to be like you're going to wake up overnight and the world's ending. This is the shift, this great shift, the great awakening is it's a slow evolving process that's actually been happening for a long time. But 2020 and 2021 are major years of disclosure. And it's major deconstruction mode. So right now, we're getting to a space where everything has to start breaking down. And all of that weight is going to feel like it's coming on you. You now have the pressure to grow your own food. You now have the pressure to teach your children. Did you really enjoy? Did you really benefit? Do they really benefit from what they were learning in school? Are the things that they were being taught in school, is that going to help them survive living on their own? Do they know how to hotwire a car? Do they know how to plant food? Do they know how to build things? Do they know how to use their imagination and inquire? Do they know how to get into creator mode? Do they know how to create safety in their body? Do they know how to process the emotions that they are feeling? Those are the freaking things that are most important right now, not how to do 5 times 10. Is math skills and spelling skills and reading skills useful? Of course they are. But is that what's really important right now? No. It's teaching our children how to have boundaries. And how to have boundaries is, do you like this or do you like that? Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? Helping them develop their sense of self. Because if you don't know who you are, and I talked about this in January, I said, this is the year of vision. This is the year you better know who the fuck you are. And how do you know who you, because if you're a people pleaser, you don't know who you are. So how do you know who you are? What do I like? What do I don't like? What do I want in a relationship? What do I don't not in a relationship? What do I like to do for fun? What do I not like to do for fun? What do I like to eat? What do I not like to eat? What will I tolerate? What will I won't tolerate? This is your boundaries. We need to be teaching them who they are. Because if you don't know who you are, you won't trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, you won't trust anybody else. And that's what's happening right now, is we have given away all our power to the government, right? Last year over Lionsgate in 2019, I launched the I Am Awake hashtag as part of the Soul Evolution movement. And that I Am Awake was saying that the government is no longer in control of me, that I can do things the way I want, the way that I want to do them. I am no longer giving my power to people, places, and things outside of me. I'm no longer going to be dependent on other people fulfilling the things that I need. Now, that does not mean we don't need things and we don't need people. Don't misconstrue that, right? Because there's a lot of teachers out there that are saying that if you need, you're in lack. And if you need, then you're codependent. That's a bunch of bullshit. We came here for human connection. We are the only species that is reliant upon another human being when they're born. That's for a reason. But with that said, if you are expecting that need to be met by another person solely, if you are saying you are incapable of meeting your own need on your own, that is codependency, and that is a lack program. You may not desire to grow your own food, but can you do it? Are you capable? Of course you are. You may not desire to live by yourself, but are you capable? Are you able to do it? Can you do it? Of course you can. So sometimes we have to do things on our own so that we can establish the evidence that we're able to do it. And then, and only then, will we then call in a match to somebody else doing it. Does that make sense? Do you understand? Is there any questions about that? Because that's an important piece for you guys to get. Sometimes we are forced to do things and given the pressure, the responsibility, so that we can build the evidence that we are capable of doing this. And then and only then, because this is a law of attraction-based universe, this is a mirrored reality that we are existing in, then and only then will we call in the people, places, and things that will meet that need and not make it our responsibility. But that doesn't mean we're not capable of fulfilling that need. So the true war that's happening is actually happening inside of us. Yes, there's good and evil. Yes, there are dark seeds. Yes, there are some very corrupt things going on. But those things are a part of source. Those things are not outside of you. Those energies, as I discussed in my 2-hour live event, those energies don't know how to fulfill their needs on their own. They don't know how to sustain the vibration, the energy to allow that flow. They don't know who they are. Their structure is not built. So how do they maintain their structure? How do they maintain their money? How do they maintain their power? By continuously taking it from other people. That's what crime is. I feel so powerless that I'm going to take your power. And then we have the healers and light workers who are just stepping into that energy, right? They've moved out of a little bit of victim and now they're like, oh, I need to be all of service. They're the other extreme. So there's two polarities. This is the light and dark that's happening. The dark is, I don't know how to meet my own needs, so I'm going to take from everybody else. I can't sustain and I'm not capable of sustaining my own needs. And then you have the light that's like, I will give you everything you need. Source is everything. God will provide. Do you see the contrast? So why are we seeing the polarities? Because nobody is stepping into phase 3. I wouldn't say nobody. We do have a lot of people who are now stepping into phase 3. But if you watch my event, what's phase 3? Phase 3 is I have my structure built. I know who I am. I know in the direction at least that I want to go in. I know what I will tolerate and what I won't tolerate. I know innately who I am, and I can run every decision through that filter and say, does this line up with the things that I like and that I'll tolerate and that I want to do and where I'm going? Nope. Okay, well, that doesn't go through my container. That is not a part of my flow. Phase 3 is I know who I am and I can allow that flow. That is the balance of the divine feminine and masculine. But right now we have the wounded feminine, which is the light workers, and we have the wounded masculine, which is the dark seeds. And they're having this huge inner conflict. No, it's my way. No, it's my way. So with inner conflict, it's exhausting. There's nobody trusting. So what happens? Eventually, you're going to break. And you're going to stop and you're going to fall right into that 0 point in between the two. And you're going to say, fuck it. Here I am. Back at 0 point. And you guys can go through this millions of times in a year. You guys can go through this 0 point exercise going back and forth and inner conflict. You could do it every 3 years. You can do it every 3 days. You can do it every week. I mean, it can continuously happen. This is why people, and I went through it, you get so tired where you just lay on the floor and you're like, what's the point? I'm not going to get up anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. Why am I going to keep trying? But if you're not failing, you're not trying. This world was built on trial and error, and that's where we have to get back to. Right now, for September, we're in the patience phase. We're entering into the patience phase where everybody's like, I don't know what to do. I'm feeling this. This is happening, but I don't know what to do. I feel like I should go. I feel like I should work. I feel like I could build. I feel like I should move. I feel like I should travel. I feel like I should eat this. I feel like I should sleep. I feel like I should do all these things. And I'm like, I don't know which one to do. And they're asking for you to be patient. They're asking for you to be still. They're asking for you to stop trying to do everything. To just be in that 0 point. You have to get to a point where you feel so much pressure that you break. And you know what? When I was talking to you guys over the past few months, I've been talking about mid-December to mid-January and that month time frame, there's going to be a major shift. And what they've been showing me is this shift is like a giant Kundalini awakening. That shift is going to be probably the biggest part of the Great Awakening, because in that shift, it's going to be like a light switch going off in people. And you may not all see it right away, but over that month time, there's going to be so many people, their intuition clicking on there. It's almost like when we went through that the Schumann resonance, that major unplugging, and this could actually even accelerate. But I feel like when we went through the Schumann resonance, that massive unplugging, it was like giving people this time of dormancy where they're literally finding themselves in the boat, watching their city burn down, watching their government burn down, watching the school system fail our children, watching the food supply and the distribution supply and everything just start breaking. Why? Because there's no communication. All these separate parts of ourselves that are reflected outside of ourselves via school, government, structure, food, us depending on these things for ourselves. We're literally watching the communication lines break and then begin to crumble. And you're literally left sitting in a boat going, I don't know what to do now. I haven't been trained. I was so programmed and in the system, I don't know how to do these things. And so as we're watching these things start to crumble, this is giving people, as they're being unplugged from the matrix, they're being unplugged from the old earth, they're being unplugged from the old paradigms. They're literally sitting in that 0 point. They're literally sitting in that void of, do I really want to go back to that? Or I wonder if I can do this on my own. I wonder if I can do this a new way. I wonder, inquiry, imagination. This is what sparks the new earth creation. This is where we're going. And we're damn skippy going to be going back to a communal style living. Think about how many times you've judged somebody for having a nanny. Think about how many times you've judged somebody for having a maid. Is your zone of genius cleaning? Is your zone of genius nurturing and being 100% there for your children? Or is your zone of genius in business? Or is your zone of genius gardening? Is your zone of genius building? Can you allow someone else to step in and fulfill that need for that child? Or to fulfill that need for yourself? Or do you really think that we came here to be solely responsible for everything on our own? Because this is the thing that women created. And if you create your reality, and we created that bar, we set that tone, we set that expectation. So now you're expected to be a single mother who makes 6 figures a year, who has a super clean house, who doesn't have a nanny, who doesn't have a maid, who homeschools her kids. You see them on Facebook all the time. Don't tell me you don't. And then you hate yourself because you're not doing it. We created those expectations, and now we have to break them. Now the world has to crumble them. But in order for it to crumble, in order for us to allow it to crumble, the world has to crumble, because we have been unwilling to look at ourselves in the mirror and to face these parts of ourselves. And so as the world crumbles, as the pedophile rings get bigger, as all the disclosure happens, we're being forced to look at something outside of ourselves that is a reflection of us. Because if it triggers you, it's a part of you. It's literally pushing a button and summoning that energy up. This is why I teach what I teach. This is why I do what I do. I love teaching metaphysically. I love teaching people how to open their gifts. But there's no point of opening your gifts. There's no point of learning to use your third eye or channeling if you're channeling through density. Because I've done it that way, and it's painful. Because light has to move through your column of light. As you're channeling, it has to have a clear flow. If not, it's going to be hitting things, and it's going to cause dis-ease in the body. It's going to cause you to be exhausted. It's going to cause you to see terrible things. So the more you make space inside of yourself, the more you face yourself, the more you face these fears and triggers, and you look at it and you say, I'm so triggered by these fires. I'm so triggered by pedophilia. I'm so triggered by the blood drinking. I'm so triggered by our politicians being shady. I'm so triggered by these damn teachers and the school system and what they're doing to our kids. What is that trying to tell you? because it is, if it's bothering you, if it's triggering you, it's for you. That is a part of you. There's a reflection in there. And we can thank it and we can say, thank you. Now, because I wasn't willing to look in the mirror and do it myself, I had to have all of this happen. Now think about that times 8 million people. Shit's going to have to get real. So it may not be super real in your community. In fact, I live in a small town. I've been talking about these visions of black skies and things burning and food shortages and civil unrest and increase in murder and violence. And I'm like, I don't even know if any of that's happening. So yesterday I tuned into the news, and as soon as I tuned in, I saw someone's post where it's 12 o'clock in Northern California and the skies are black. Of fires merging in Oregon where they literally are trapped and their whole communities are burning down. Where New York, the murder is so high, it's higher than it's ever been, that there's massive civil unrest. And I'm thinking, God, I don't want these visions to be true. For once, I'm rooting against myself, hoping that I'm wrong. And they said this stuff has to happen because it's the only way that they will all wake up. We have to pressurize to drop them into that 0 point where they come back to, I have a fucking choice. I have a choice. I can feel helpless because I was so conditioned and programmed to be dependent on someone outside of myself. Or I can start experimenting, trying, trial and error. I can start creating. I can start imagining. I can start deciding, what do I actually want? Who do I want to be? How do I want my world to be? Is this my zone of genius? This is the true war of 2020. You think this is all happening for you to you, because it is happening for you. We're not a victim of any of this. We literally created this. And now, as Source has made its turn back to coming together, coming back into unity, it's realizing this is not what we actually wanted. We didn't want to be further separated. We didn't want to be controlled. We didn't want to be further divided. The light is starting to enter us, and we're starting to remember that we are more powerful than we ever gave ourselves credit for. And we're like, oh yeah, I can do this. Oh yeah, I'm powerful. The only way to control your environment, to control what's happening, is to control you. Because the true fear, the true opposite, the true polar opposite of fear is not love, right? We've all been programmed from Marianne Williamson and Gabby Bernstein that the opposite of fear is love. But let me ask you a question. If you don't feel safe, are you going to love? Because if you love, what happens? You have to open yourself up completely. You have to open all the doors and windows and allow for anything to come in. That's the only true way to love. So the real polar opposite of fear is safety. And if you don't feel safe inside of you, you definitely won't feel safe outside of you. You won't feel safe in your environment. You won't feel safe in a relationship. You won't feel safe at work. You won't feel safe going to the grocery store. So you want to know how we help the world shift? We start teaching our children how to find safety within. We do the freaking work to create safety within ourselves. We do the work to trust ourselves. This is why I created the Self-Mastery Academy. Why? Because I can't teach 5 million things at one time. I've already created all this awesome content. Now 1 million people could join, and I'm serving 1 million people instead of 5 or 10 clients a week. I had to learn to scale it so that I could meet more needs, because you know what? As I'm getting ready to open up teacher training, which is going to start in January of 21, I'm going to do a 12-month teacher training to teach anybody who wants to go through it, every single thing I know, every modality I know, every connection I know, everything. Because we need more leaders and warriors who want to be the change, who have taken ownership of their life and are saying, I will be the beacon for those who are lost and looking for direction, not to tell them how to do it, not to do it for them, but to say, look at me, look at me. I will demonstrate how to feel safe inside of yourself, how to trust yourself, how to know that you are capable of doing things by yourself. And in that capability, you actually attract everything you need to support your reality. Because you don't need to do it by yourself. You don't need to do everything on your own. Has the government actually been doing anything for you? Or are you just their slave? And then you're paying to be their slave by paying fucking taxes. So not only have they got you to become their slave, go to work from 9 to 5, pay, you actually are paying to be their slave. Hear that. Hear those words. Is your money that you're paying to be a slave, what are they providing to you? Do you have health care? No, you got to pay for that still. Do your kids have a fucking killer education? No. Are your roads safe? No. What are they doing for you? Is your food supply healthy, chemical free? No. Wake up. Wake up. We are capable. We are responsible. You want to change the world? This is the war. The war is you have to be the change. You have to decide. You have to do the work. The problem is most of us have been trained that having an emotion has a consequence. We are so afraid to feel disempowered. We are so afraid to feel hurt. We are so afraid to surrender into the pain. But that's the only way. That's the only way. I will be talking more about teacher training soon. I actually, probably by the end of the month, I'll be getting the interview process. So I'll be putting out a landing page, if you will, that will just show you all the information. And then I'll be taking consultations where we chat, because not everybody's going to be ready for that. But I will write your name down to make sure that when I put that out, that you see it, Tara Lynn, crazy. I was just thinking this the other day. I know it's an impromptu live, but it was such a good session with my student today. And I said, I'm going to springboard off of this, and I'm going to go live and just share this, because this is what is happening. This is what's truly happening. And you have the power. I have the power. We can't control everybody else. And because there are so many people that are still in that darkness, in that density, in that conditioning and programming, they're just now starting to become unplugged. We have to pressurize them. And so, yes, the world is going to look like the freaking Twilight Zone for a little while. Things are going to be bizarre. And you're just going to be like, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say about this anymore. But don't just blow it off as 2020. Look at what's happening. Sit with it. Process it. Is that what you want? Is it going to suck if the vision comes true that the shelves are barren? Of course it's going to suck. Of course it's going to be scary. I'm not telling you not to be scared. You cannot love and light your way out of this. You can't meditate your way out of this. You have to face it and make a freaking decision. And take ownership of the fact that you should have been prepared, that we need to be prepared. So I'm telling you right now, get prepared. How do you get prepared? You make a plan. Can I plan a couple of foods? Can I have some essentials stocked up? Don't go crazy. Just if there was a hurricane coming or a disaster kit, make a plan. Learn how to garden. Teach your kids how to garden. Have a plan of what you're going to do and how you're going to survive. Make a plan. Create that safety for yourself. Again, don't go to the extremes. And if you do, people are going to do it. Prepare yourself to be able to sustain yourself, or you're no better. And this is going to piss people off, and I don't care. Or you're no better than Hollywood and the politicians, because they can't sustain who they are. They can't sustain their wealth and their power and their ability. So they have to take from other people. They have to take from us. They have to use us and manipulate us. Learn to be self-sustaining so that you will attract the right people, places, and things to help you maintain. Create that community. Get to know your neighbors. It's time for us to get into our hearts and imagine what we want from our communities, from our world. And how can we help contribute to that? Everything's going to be different. And if maybe your way of contributing is you sitting and holding a high vibration and doing nothing, then that's your contribution. Maybe your contribution is to invite your community to grow things, and you grow strawberries and they grow cabbage, and someone else grows carrots and someone else grows potatoes, and you do exchanges. You don't need to grow everything. What are you going to do with all that food? Maybe your community is, you know what? I'm really good at guiding children. I'm really good at teaching kids. I have a way with kids. Okay, well, how about you help the kids during the day, and I will cook the food because I love cooking. And I'm going to make meals for the 4 women in my apartment complex, or the 4 girls on my street. I'm going to do the cooking. They're going to do the teaching, right? We'll take turns having overnight, so everybody gets a night to themselves. I really want this to sink in, because when we come together with our zones of genius, we rise together. We were never meant to do this alone. We were never meant to do this by ourselves, but we are capable if we need to. Okay? So that's what I have for you today. I love you guys. And I want you to know that we can do this. Don't see what's happening in the world as fear-based. See it as literally us blowing up all the things that weren't serving us anyway, so that we can decide together what we want to put in its place. All right. So I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for joining me.